Hello and welcome back to another video on the Football Zone and to another weekend previewing this week's Premier League and Championship action. Let's get straight into it. A massive game in the Premier League. Manchester City taking on Liverpool. And yeah, this is of course a massive game for Man City. On great form before the break. But yeah, seemed maybe like they may be missing Erling Haaland, which would be a big play. But 8 points behind Arsenal now. So yeah, it's a tough ask, but they have to win these games. Liverpool still need points against the Champions League. But yeah, they're just still not themselves this season, are they? And City, I think they will win this. I'm going to say 2-0. Moving on then to Bournemouth, and they've got a big game as they continue their ongoing battle to avoid relegation, hosting Fulham. And yeah, this is an intriguing game. Bournemouth coming into this one, yeah, not on the greatest of form. They have won 2 of the last 5, but except for that, all losses. But Fulham, they've lost the last 3, and yeah, kind of head losses. They've lost Mitrovic, probably lost Silva. Don't have too much to play for really for the rest of the season. Bournemouth do. They always seem like a team that could spring a surprise. So I'm going to say it'll be a draw here, 1-1. Moving on then to Arsenal as they take on Leeds at the Emirates. And yeah, Arsenal coming into this one off that 4-1 win against Palace. They got 8-point leads. Leeds at the moment, they're no great shakes. Did beat Wolves last time out. But yeah, still a game that if Arsenal perform at their best, you'd expect them to win. But yeah, the pressure is going to start ramping up for Arsenal. Leeds 2 points clear of the relegation zone, but it's just so tight down there. But yeah, like I'm going to say Arsenal will get the win. I'm going to say it'll be 2-0. Moving on then to Brighton as they take on Brentford at the Amex. And yeah, Brighton on great form before the break, cruising to a trip to Wembley, and yeah, their league form's good, still right in contention for a European place. Taking on a Brentford side, their form, only 2 wins from the 5 before that, but 1 loss in 5, so you can shape it up in whatever way that you want really. They're still having a great season, but yeah, I'd say they're underdogs heading to the Amex with the way Brighton are playing at the moment. So yeah, I can see Brighton just edging a win here, 1-0. Moving on into Palace as they take on Leicester at Selhurst Park. And Palace, after a really poor run of form, have now put Roy Hodgson in charge at the end of the season. Yeah, I've kind of made my feelings clear on this. I think it's a backward step. I would have kept Vieira. I don't think they'll go down. But, they've made the decision they made. And they need a response against the Leicester side that's really struggling. And Brendan Rodgers will probably be relieved he survived the international break. But they are right in the thick of a relegation battle. But yeah, I'm going to say Palace will get the win here. 2-1 for me. Moving on then to Nottingham Forest as they take on Wolves at the City ground. And yeah, Forest coming into this one, their form, it's not been great, has it? And that's kind of partly the reason why they've been sucked back into relegation battle. And yeah, the same can be said of Wolves. They're only 3 points clear as a drop. So yeah, not going too well for either of these sides really at the moment, you'd say. And yeah, both these teams kind of need to come out of the international break with better form than they win it. But I'm going to say it'll be a draw here. I think these two will be able to separate each other. Moving on then to Chelsea as they take on Villa at Stamford Bridge. And Chelsea, disappointing 2-2 draw with Everton, because before that, it kind of looked like they were starting to find their rhythm under Graham Potter with 3 really good wins, knocking Dortmund out of the Champions League, and that sort of thing. But yeah, Villa on really good form before the break, but a tough trip to Stamford Bridge kind of awaits for them. So yeah, this will be a hard game for them. But I'm going to say Chelsea will pick up the win here, 2-0 for me. Moving on then to a big game down at the foot of the table as West Ham host Southampton. And yeah, West Ham coming into this one, off the back of a 4-0 win against Larnaca, 1-2 of their last 3 during the league. But yeah, this is a big game for them. They need a win here. Otherwise, in the relegation zone, they do have games in hand, but the situation is starting to look precarious for them. But for Southampton, even more precarious for them, you'd have to say. It's looking tough for them. But yeah, I'm going to say West Ham will get the win here. I think they'll have a bit too much for them. Moving on then to Newcastle as they take on Manchester United at St James's Park. And yeah, Newcastle coming into this one off the back of 2 wins on the trot, and that's kind of much needed after 3 wins. 3 losses on the trot. But Manchester United in really good form as well. And yeah, both these sides kind of looking to lock down a top 4 spot. For Manchester United, it looks a lot more secure than it does for Newcastle. But yeah, with Newcastle being at home, I can see this being overweight, but I'm going to say we draw 1-1. Moving on into Everton as they take on Tottenham at Goodison Park. And yeah, Everton coming into this one, obviously, few draws against Chelsea and Forest. Good win against Brentford, in really good form and kind of picked up on the Dyche. I think maybe the international break for them though, because they've done quite well in the last three, maybe didn't come at a great time. But for Tottenham, yeah, it's just been all out chaos at that club. I mean, it's pointless listing everything that's happened. But yeah, I think they'll still have enough to get past Everton 1-0. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they handle the distractions. Moving on then to Burnley as they take on Sunderland at Turf Moor on Friday night in the Championship. And yeah, Burnley, I mean, let's face it, they're all but promoted now, aren't they? They're going to be in the Premier League next season beyond any shadow of any doubt. Did lose to Man City last time out, but yeah, their league form is just simply scintillating. Sunderland, meanwhile, 7 points off the pass. It's looking like a tough arse to really get in there between now and the end of the season. And yeah, I'm expecting Burnley to have too much for them here. I'm going to say 2-0. Moving on then to Luton as they take on Watford at Kenilworth Road. And yeah, Luton, coming into this one, off the back of 3 wins in the last 5, unbeaten in 5, and really good run of form. Watford though, just inconsistent and really disappointing 1-1 draw at home to Wigan. That's kind of a game that they have to win really. And yeah, I can't lie, it does seem like their playoff chances, 5 points off, kind of fading away, unless Chris Wilder can work miracles. But on this one, I'm still going to predict a draw. I'm going to say 1-1. Moving on then to Preston as they take on Blackpool at Deepdale. And Preston, were on a good run of form, but then got beat by Middlesbrough, and yeah, they're kind of another team that's 7 points outside the pass. If they go on an incredible run of form, you never know, they could potentially launch a push, but it does seem unlikely really, doesn't it? Taking on the Blackpool side, who just so inconsistent. They had that great win and then lost and got stuffed before the break, but yeah, they still got a chance to survive, but they need to start winning games, so I think Preston will have too much for them here. Moving on then to Birmingham as they take on Blackburn at St Andrews, and yeah, Birmingham coming into this one off the back of a big win at QPR, and yeah, I think there'll be enough to survive relegation now. I don't think there'll be any worries of that. 9 points clear. So yeah, job well done for this season really. But taking on the Blackburn side that's lost 2 of the last 3 in all competitions, but still looking good for a playoff spot. So yeah, I think they'll feel confident coming into this one. I think Rovers will get the 2-0 win. Moving on into Reading as they take on Bristol City at Ashton Gate, and Bristol City have lost the last 2. So maybe if it was before the break, it would be a good time for Reading to play them, but they kind of had the opportunity to reset. But it's a similar case with Reading because they were in awful form as well. So yeah, it's kind of a good chance for these 2 teams to refresh. Bristol City kind of as mid-table as you can get, but Reading, they're going to be in the relegation battle if the points deduction does come to fruition. But even then, I can still see Bristol having a bit too much for them. I'm going to say 2-0. Moving on into Coventry as they take on Stoke at the Ricoh Arena. And yeah, Coventry coming into this one on a really good run of form actually. Unbeaten since the beginning of February. So yeah, really impressive form. And yeah, only 3 points outside the playoffs, so that's definitely still in contention. Stoke really picked up just before the break. But it's going to be too late, unfortunately, for them to kind of mount any real sort of playoff charge. But for Coventry, it's a big game for them as they continue to hunt down the top 6. And I think they'll get another win here. I'm going to say 2-1. Moving on into Middlesbrough as they take on Huddersfield at the John Smith Stadium. And yeah, Huddersfield, that 1-0 win away at Millwall last time out was a really surprising result, but it could be a massive result because it did look like they were kind of getting cut adrift. So yeah, it's a massive result for them. But for Middlesbrough, still chasing down Sheffield United, 3 points, they can really put the pressure on with a win here. Huddersfield, I still don't see them as any great shake. So yeah, I think Middlesbrough will have enough to get out of the win here. I'm going to say it'll be 2-0 to the Borough. Moving on into Hull as they take on Rotherham at the KCOM. And yeah, Hull are another side whose season you kind of feel like it will just peter out into mid-table mediocrity, which no, it's not a bad season for them really. But for Rotherham, only 4 points above the relegation zone, do have a game in hand on Huddersfield, but yeah, you feel like that's not over yet. But Hull, yeah, on paper you'd say they're probably a slightly stronger team, and yeah, having home advantage, I feel like they'll just edge this one. I'm going to say 1-0. Moving on into Norwich as they take on Sheffield United at Carrow Road. And yeah, Norwich coming into this one, 2 draws on the trot and a loss before that. Not great form, so an international break was a good opportunity for them to reset. But Sheffield United, 2 wins on the trot. And yeah, in all competitions, looking good for that automatic promotion spot. Just need to avoid those mini wiggles that they had. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough game for them here, and they need to pick up some points out of it. They were Barrow breathing down in the neck. So I'm going to say it'll be 1-1. Moving on into West Brom as they take on Millwall at the Hawthorns. And yeah, West Brom coming into this one, 2 wins on the trot. before that draw at Cardiff. And Millwall, I don't know, it's just so disappointing because 2 wins on the trot for them as well, looking really secure, and then they go and lose at home to Huddersfield. It's really put the pressure on them here, and it's a tough away game here, but they need to make amends for that really poor result. Will they be able to? I'm not sure they will, to be honest. I think I can see West Brom just edging this one. I'm going to say 1-0. Moving on then to Wigan as they take on QPR at the DW, and Wigan coming into this one, not on a great run of form. They've picked up some solid draws recently against the likes of Watford and Coventry, which are really good results, but with that 3-point deduction, they need wins. But yeah, taking on a QPR side, this is kind of the ideal opportunity because we all know what the shambles they've been. Hopefully Gareth Ainsworth has used his 2 weeks to really work on the squad because boy oh boy they need it. But yeah, in this one I'm going to say 0-0. I'm going to see it being a game with, let's face it, not a lot of quality. Moving on then to the Wales derby, to round us off, Cardiff taking on Swansea. Cardiff, still not out of the relegation battle, only 3 points ahead of Huddersfield, but do have a game in hand. Swansea in 16th. They're kind of mid-table, so not a lot to play for. So yeah, I think Cardiff will definitely be targeting the win here. Will they be able to get it? I don't know. It's a hard one to say. I'm going to say it'll be a draw. I just don't think there's a lot separating the two sides, especially as Cardiff need it more. But anyway, guys, that's it really. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and also comment down below for daily football news and subscribe to my channel. It's greatly appreciated. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.